Hey YouTube. So a couple people asked me about sharpening blades, and this is the setup I have. It's two bicycle wheels, a front and a rear wheel, and they're hooked to an angle iron. I welded a nut onto, or not an angle iron, onto a box steel. Okay, and I had made videos about this before, so I want to make this short. But anyway, I welded a nut onto this thing, put the axle through, and bolted this in two places to hold it against my workbench. Then I figured out about the length of a blade for my woodmizer lt15. I put one bolt in here and welded the other on the opposite end of that. And what that does is it makes it so that it's like a swivel and it tightens up on the blade. Now let me just tell you, before you bother commenting back to me about all the different things that you want to do about sharpening, let me just say, man has been sharpening blades for probably thousands of years. Okay, I don't know the exact number of years, but lots of them. And the point is we've come to a point where we make everything difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult. A sharp is when the instrument you're sharpening cuts the thing you want it to cut. Nothing else matters. Okay. Now, if we as a people have reduced this to a science, then let the scientists play with that thing and do what they want. For me, I don't have time to be playing ifs, ands, or buts. I just want the blade sharp so I can get out there and cut, as soon as I possibly can. So I chose to sharpen it myself because I've been sharpening circular saw blades, hand saw blades, buck saws, and everything else ever since I've been a young man. I watched my dad do it when I was a kid. He showed me how to do it. I had a great father, great figure for showing you how to do stuff. I mean, the guy, I was soldering pipes when I was about 8 years old. He just wanted me to learn everything I could, and I still am after that today. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, like I say, it's not rocket science to sharpen, but there are some things you need to know. But I know that my blades are sharper than the factories because they're easier to push through the wood. And they'll cut just as straight and true as the factories. But you got to adhere to a couple of things. For one thing is you got to make sure the blade is clean. If you look at this blade, you see there's a lot of stuff on here from the pine sap. So that has to be taken off. And this blade in particular, if you look there, it's got a major kink in it right here. So this blade is junk. I'm not going to use this blade anymore, but I'm going to use it really quick for a demonstration for you to show you how to use this. Now, I was using this file in a motion like this, do the back, do the front, and then I would take a stone and just get the burr off of it, okay? And that worked pretty good and wasn't an issue as far as cutting goes. But it came to the point where it was taking me so long to sharpen the blade that it was about an hour and a half in time. Well, I've cut that down to maybe half of an hour, and I've done it with a tool that I'll show you here in a second. So this tool, this saw setter, sets my teeth on the saw blades so that they're 28 thousandths beyond the side of the blade. 28 thousandths up, 28 thousandths down, depending upon whatever you have. For this is an up, so 28 thousandths up, this is a down, 28 thousandths down. And you can measure that very easily, which I'll show you, towards the end of the tape with a dial caliper. There's nothing hard about it. So that's how much of a set I get on the tooth. Oh, what I was trying to say there before you go commenting, look at my videos about cutting siding out of the white pine. I cut the other day probably 45 pieces of siding out of white pine with this particular blade, and all of it came out beautiful. And you're talking about 1/4 inch thick pieces on one edge, 12 feet long, that it's just, it looks like it came from the factory. That's how well the woodmiser's cutting, and that's how well my hand sharpened blades cut. all the blades that I've been using have been sharpened at least 3 times. Now because this blade has this kink in it, and I did that because I was trying to pull out of a cut, I wasn't watching what I was doing right, and the blade came off the machine and kinked it, so I'm not even going to bother using this. I have all kind of metalworking tools, and I could probably hammer that out of there. I could probably shrink it or do whatever else I have to do to make it happen, but it's not worth my effort to me, so I'm not going to fool with that. So let me just show you what I do to sharpen. So there's a couple of things that took place from the first time I started sharpening these blades. I find these blades at 20 bucks a piece or more to be a good candidate for sharpening if you have a quick way of doing it. Now the most important thing about this sharpening in my mind is that you know which way the blade or the teeth are pointing, which way they're set. And one way to find that out is to take a razor blade, okay, and lay it across the tooth and shine a flashlight on this side. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to find the welded spot on the blade, and I want to show you how to use the razor. Now I just said that you want to use the razor to find the set. And before you do that, what you should do is clean off the blade. It doesn't matter how you clean it off. I like using the razor blade to clean it off. It's quick, it's not messy, I don't have any dirt to fool around with. And what I'll do on the top of the blade here then is I'll run the knife on that, but usually the top or the outside of the blade's not the issue. It's usually this side that faces up that absorbs the stuff, or that the sap sits on. So anyway, what I do is I take a pair of vice grips, and these are open on this edge here real wide. They come to a sort of like a point, so they're not pushing on the set. I take this, excuse me, this type you'd use for welding. I only do that to hold that. Okay, so let me just hold that, put that there for a second. I want to get to the part about finding the set. So then what you do to find the saw set, normally what I found out with the weld is usually the one right in front of the weld, in other words the blades are going that direction when it's running in the saw, usually this one is a straight one. So what I do is I lay the blade down and I look across it, and you can tell by looking at them which one goes which way. Now this one is a straight set, in other words there's no set to it. This one sets down, this goes down, and this one comes up. Now I'm going to try and get you in a position where you can actually see that. You can see what I'm looking at. Just bear with me because the camera's taking up more space than I need to be able to do the showing here. Okay, what we're doing is we want this tooth here. Now I hope you're going to be able to see this. I think you should be able to. Alright, so you lay the blade across the tooth like this at the point, and you shine the light underneath that. Now you notice how the light stream seems all one width? That means that that blade is straight. But if you come over here and you put it, you notice that at this end of the light stream where my thumb is there, you notice that there's a wide thing of light there. That means that that tooth is set down. And then if you come to the next one here, let me just try and get you on there. If you come to the next one, you'll see that the light, this is setting on the blade here, and most of the light is after the tooth. It's this direction from here down. So that tooth is set up. So what I do then right away is I mark with a magic marker the flat blade. Okay, so in this case, or the no set I should say, that's this one. Alright, so I'll mark that, and then I'll go down the saw and I'll mark this completely all the way around. So all I do is say 1, 2, mark, 1, 2, mark. And that's what I do to mark the blades. Alright, So this is a matter of 1, 2, mark, 1, 2, mark. I'm sorry guys, it's the camera's in my face here, that's why I'm having a hard time with it. But anyway, I marked the entire blade. And it's important that you mark the whole blade, because when it comes time to set it, you have to be able to know which way you're going, and you have to remember the pattern. Now, once you've done this a while, you can literally feel the difference. Like, I can feel that this tooth is aiming down, that this is flat, and this is aiming up. I can feel it. Now, that's only 28 thousandths difference than the main body of the blade, but you can still feel that. Okay, human beings have a tremendous amount of sensitivity in their fingers, and all you have to do is know how to use them. If you don't do it a lot, you know, do different things, you lose dexterity and stuff, and the ability to recognize what you're feeling, and it takes practice to do that. But anyway, I've gotten to the point where I have that down pretty pat. So I need to move the camera out of my way so I can basically show you how I sharpen this then. Alright, so what I'll do then is, once I get this marked off, I'll take this, put it on the weld, because I'm going to start here, okay, and work my way around the entire blade. Now, I do want to finish marking this. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I'll just keep doing that all the way around. Like I say, this blade is shot. I'm not going to be able to use this blade because when I backed out of the saw, I put that kink in it, and I'm not going to be bothering with trying to fix that. So I'll tighten this down, and like I say, you can see this doesn't affect the set in any way. It's just holding the blade. So then, what I used to do was, and you can still do this, I'll take this file and let me just pull this over a little bit so I'm starting at the right spot there. So I would normally take the file and run it down, and what you're looking for here, again, I'll put this light on here, is you want to hold the file against the tooth. You don't want to see any light in here, okay? If you see light like this, you can see like a dark shadow. If you see a shadow, you know you're away from the tooth. So if you hold this on the tooth so you don't see the shadow when you move it up and down, you know that you're on the right angle. And it's surprising how close you can get. Okay? Believe me, you can get very close within any tolerance that the saw needs. And then on the back side here, you're holding this tooth up, or the file straight up and down. Okay? And you just run this off. Now if you find yourself running over the edge of the tooth, you got to start back over here and file again. So you don't want to run over the edge. You want to sort of keep the file there and just come down like that. But that's what I used to do with the file, and then when I was done with that, I just take this stone and dress up the two sides, and I was on my way. But that takes a while. And then I don't set the saw the first time I go after it, or the second time, but the third time I sharpen them, that's when I do the setting. And some of the blades I just kept the same blade on for a week, and I just sharpen it every other day. Now some people, you know, they only saw like for a couple of hours or a certain amount of board feet, and then they go ahead and change the blade, and that's fine. I have no problem with that, with what you guys are doing. So I ask that you don't have a problem with what I'm doing. I'm just doing it my way. This is what I want to do. Okay, so let me just keep this flashlight here so you can sort of see what I'm doing here. So anyway then, what I do is I want to have the center of this circle here running across this tooth. And the reason for that is because when you go to cut, when you go to use this, and yeah, it's going to make noise, but when you go to use this, I'm sort of holding it along the same angle. And that's basically all that needs to sharpen it. Now, what you're looking for here when you're sharpening the blade is you need to have to be able to see shiny on the whole face of the blade. If you see a dull line on the top, you know that you're holding this too low. If you see a dull line along the bottom of the tooth here, okay, on the very bottom, then you know you're holding it too high. So what you want to do is hold this so you get a nice line right through the tooth, so that when you put your light there, I don't know if you can see that reflection, but you'll see there's a reflection, a really strong reflection in the tooth from shining the metal up. But if you have a dark line at the top or bottom, you know you're not holding this in the center. And you don't want to use this very long. Just like you saw me, it goes that quick to be able to sharpen these. And then after I sharpen them that way, then I take a file and all I do is that much. All I want to do is just get that rolled over metal that I can't even see but I know is there off of there. And then I feel it, and if I can't pull my finger past it, I consider that sharp. If I can drag my finger over it, then I don't feel it that sharp. So I just, and like I say, once you get a sense of feel for this, you'll know by touching it whether it's sharp or not. And I don't care what anybody says about that, because I know it works. The proof is in the wood I cut. If I didn't cut any wood that was good, and if that pine the other day would have given me all kind of grief, then you know that my cutting or sharpening technique is no good. But my sharpening technique is good, and that's why the wood cuts so good. Now, I was having problems with an oak log a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month or so ago, and the problem was that I didn't know the blade had a kink in it. I had hit a nail with the blade and I thought I could get that out of there with just one sharpening, but I couldn't. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, if you hit a nail or if the blade comes off, just take the blade and throw it away, like I'm going to do with this one. This blade is not, I'm not going to bother fixing it. I'm just going to toss it. Okay? So anyway, that's how I sharpen them. It's very quick, and if you don't have a file, you can always, I don't know if you can find sharpening stones like this. This is a pretty small one. I got it with a pocket knife once. But you can just use this, put it against the tooth so that you don't see any light on the side of it, and just rub down it. Go lay down, boy. Okay, that's all you do to get this thing straightened out. Suppose I just ate, so now he wants to go out. So I'm going to have to take him bye-bye. Right, boy? Alright, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. But this is what I do. And the thing is like when I'm sharpening, I'll sharpen with that die grinder all the way down here to where this is. And I try and always end up on one of these so that I know where I'm at with sharpening. So like I would start right here at this, sharpen all these all the way down to here. Do the faces of them, and then move this, keep an eye on it, move this down to here, and then go ahead and sharpen again. So you have to be really careful and alert to what you're doing. But like I say, this is the tool I use. I like this stone. It seems to work nice. You don't want to spend a lot of time, like I say, on the blade. Very short and to the point. Now I usually have a big 1500 watt light here with me so I can see good, but for right now I don't have it. It's on sitting on another table, but that's about it. And you can feel, if you run your finger over that and you try and pull your finger this direction, you can feel which ones have the burr on it. Like I can feel a burr on this one. I can't see it, and my eyes aren't that great to begin with. I'm wearing reading glasses just to go over this. But the point is I can feel it. Okay, so when you feel it like that, you set the saw or the file in line with the tooth, and you just go up and down a little bit. Actually, down would be better. Everybody knows this file cuts from the downward stroke or the inward stroke or the forward stroke. Okay, that's all you need to do. The best thing to do is to hold I'm trying to hold multiple things, but the best way is to hold the file like this. Okay, so you can control your motion. And you don't want to slide off the tooth. So you got to get a feel for this, and you will. And you'll even be able to feel the difference between when you're running the burr off and when you're not. when you run a file over a piece of metal, it's usually the first 2 cuts are taking a lot of metal off, and then all of a sudden it gets very smooth and you can feel it cutting, but it's a different feel, and you'll get used to that and you'll learn which one is which. So that's how I sharpen them. And then as far as setting it, all I do to set them then is I'll keep this tool on here, and before I move it, like let's say I have sharpened these. Okay, so I take that one off and I'll take this one and I'll move it over 4. Okay, and then what I'll do is I know that that's a straight tooth. This one goes down, this one goes up. So I put this on upside down, squeeze, pushes the tooth down. Put it on here, squeeze, it pushes the tooth up. And I have, as old as this is, and you may laugh at this, I put duct tape on it because my grip was sliding on the metal. I should probably put some of that rubber dippy stuff on there, I forget what you call it, but to keep it, get a little bit of grip to it. But anyway, that's what I do. I set these 2 teeth in between the lines, and I check it. I have a dial caliper here. If you take the dial caliper, and again, you have to know how to use tools, and you have to have a feel for a sense of things. Make sure it's bottoming out on 0 for one thing, okay? And you can literally, and I usually do the measuring up top here, but I'll just show you down here because I can't hold the camera and this at the same time. What I'll do is just, like say this one here I know is down. I'll just hold this tooth against there, or I mean the blade. I'll hold this again. I'll hold the blade of the caliper against the body of the blade, right at the point of the tooth. And all you gotta do is push it up, and you'll see, like this blade is 45 thousandths. Okay, so 10. This is almost 20 thousandths here. Now I'm not holding it the way I would when I was up top. I'm just saying you can measure with this. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is you would only want to measure the blades that are going down this direction. Okay, and then what you got to allow for is the thickness of the blade plus the offset of the sawtooth. Alright, so that's what I've been doing with it. And I end up with them all being the same thing. So like I say, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the set that I have. They're all within a thousandths or so, which is what they should be. And I have no problem cutting with these blades. Okay guys, so I wanted to just make a short video. I hope this one isn't too long. Have a good one. So then what I do with the dial caliper is I make sure, bullseye please, I make sure it's set to 0. No! I make sure it's set to 0. Okay, and then what I'll do is on the tooth that's aiming down, which I know is this one, I put it on there, push down with my thumb so that this blade, the blade of the dial caliper, is right over top of the tooth and it's flat with the blade, and just squeeze them together. Okay, then you can tighten that if you want to. If you pull with it riding along the top there, you'll get pretty consistent measurements. Now here's the thing, this blade was not set recently. What I did was I just hit that piece and went with what I have. So you can see that the blade is normally 45 thousandths. So here's 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths, 1, 2, 3, 4 thousandths. So this is set at 24 thousandths here, out further than what the blade is. Now I usually set it at 28. That's what my setter will do. So let me see if I can duplicate that for you. Okay, so when I set the tooth, this one goes down, so that means that the handle goes up here like this. I push it all the way on, and I take and I squeeze this with the same pressure basically all the way through. Now this is, as humanly possible. That's what I'm after. So when I check this then, my reading, if the blade thickness is 45, this would be 10, 20, 5, so somewhere between 70 and 75, really flat. Pull the blade in, and that's what I have. So you can see it's 25, 26, 27, that's 28 thousandths right there. And that's what I do. That's how I do this thing. And you would be surprised how accurate this is. Keep in mind, guys, I bought this tool. Where I live in Pennsylvania, there's a museum where they, a lumberman's museum along Route 6 in Pennsylvania. And I saw one of these laying on a table there. And I thought to myself, I'm going to get one of them because I remembered my dad using one of these, but I didn't have his. I have just about all the other tools he had, but he didn't have this thing. That was something that was missing. So when I saw it, I went on eBay and I bought one. And this was the brand, I forget the brand, the tape's covering it, but it just works good. It's always worked good. It's adjustable in two different ways. You can adjust the thickness and you can adjust the angle that you're going to get with the blade. And this 1¼ inch blade is what these are made for. They're made for a bigger, they're actually made for the teeth that were 1¼ inch long. Okay, not just the whole 1¼ inch blade. So that's it, guys. Have a good one.